Why do his videos start like this? By the way, when I watch these people, like, I gotta stop fucking shitting on the content creator because, like, I keep seeing all the like crime channels that I've been watching. I mean, I respect what they do, okay? But I keep seeing like the content creators that I've been watching follow me on Twitter and stuff, and I get scared because I'm like, fuck. What if I said something? What if I said something where I just like roasted them? You know what I mean? I love all of the content creators that make all of these videos. Otherwise, I would just literally talk about politics all day, and it would be kind of boring after a while. I do shit on everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
After the GSU raided John McAfee's Orange Walk compound, he decided to move back to his villa on Ambergris Key. Unlike his secluded compound, his beachfront property was situated in a residential community. Most of his neighbors were retired expats, so when McAfee returned with his guns, guards, dogs, and
do you seriously admire this guy for sticking to his beliefs, even with his violence? Or is the admiration kind of a joke? You did it. You arrived at something that's a joke without me literally telling you that it's a joke. I'm proud of you. This is progress, okay? This is actually progress. That's very cool. I'm unironically proud of you. Leftists are capable of growth in the realm of humor. It's good. No, I'm not joking when I say I'm proud of you.
prostitutes. He came in like a bulldozer and pissed everyone off. His armed guards and dogs roamed the public beach, which freaked people out. There was a petition filed against McAfee by the residents and visitors of the Mata Grande subdivision. The complaint read, "These problems are all at the residence of John McAfee. Security guards on McAfee's property walk around with shotguns at night and up and down the beach. They have been known to shine spotlights right into people's eyes at night and act aggressively with their guns, chambering a bullet and nonsense such as this."
Hassan, why are you shitting on McAfee? This video is literally slander. First and foremost, if I was shitting on John McAfee, I would have to charge him because that's what he's into. And secondly, this video is not slanderous in any capacity. It's literally 100% true. Like, I've yet to see, as a matter of fact, I think he skips a lot of the more horrible things that he's done, and just like talks about them briefly. So I would go so far as to say the video is like actually doing John McAfee's actually doing John McAfee like not only justice but like maybe even doing right by him to a degree that he doesn't deserve.
People are scared to walk down the beach at night as a result. The tourists are terrified. Vicious dogs on his property are running amok. These animals get loose and run as a pack. 3 residents have been bitten, and 3 tourists have been attacked. McAfee's most vocal critic was a man named Greg Fall. Greg Fall was a retired contractor and former Marine from Miami, Florida, who was living in his dream home. He purchased the property after it had been leveled by a hurricane and was left standing with only 2 walls and a floor. It took him 7 years to rebuild it, yet he persisted in order to ensure that he can spend his remaining years relaxing in sunny beliefs. Then McAfee showed up and started fucking everything up. There was a lounge on the beach that Greg liked to visit, but to get there, he had to pass McAfee's property. After many run-ins with the dogs and guards, Fall became fed up. When Fall confronted McAfee, McAfee pointed a shotgun at him and cycled it. Then he said, "Get off my property, or I'll shoot your ass." On November 8th, Fall filed a formal complaint to the mayor's office. When nothing came from that, Fall told people that he would deal with McAfee's dogs himself. On Friday, November 9th, 2012, Joshua Davis received an email from McAfee that at 10:30 p.m., he saw a contingent of black-suited thugs step onto the dock next to his villa and disperse onto the beach. 30 minutes later, his dogs were poisoned. McAfee wrote, "Mello, Lucky, Dipsy, and Guerrero have already died."
This is the only part of the Gringo documentary where like McAfee kind of comes off, I think, in like a favorable light, where they cover it as like you know, this dude was like really fucking angry at him and like actually murdered his dogs. So he just went and murdered him straight up.
I had to call Amy to tell her about Mello. She is hysterical. On November 10th, 2012, McAfee called Davis to tell him that his dogs were vomiting blood and convulsing on the ground. He had to shoot them to put them out of their misery. That same day, McAfee told people that he would get his revenge. On Sunday, November 11th, 2012, at 7:20 a.m., Greg Fall was found dead by his housekeeper inside of his living room. The medical examiner said that the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the back of his head. He was found lying in a pool of his own blood in front of his television, with the back of his shirt pulled over his head and taser marks all over his back. There were no visible signs of forced entry. A 9mm Luger casing was found on the exterior steps of his home, and his laptop and iPhone were discovered missing. McAfee quickly became a person of interest in the case, so the police...
It doesn't matter. It's like not fucking... They're not showing anything, but still, I'm like, you know, being
visited
extra...
his house to question him. But McAfee wasn't there. On his blog, McAfee claimed that he watched them arrive from the beach, so he quickly dug a hole in the sand and buried himself with a cardboard box over his head so he...
That's Kajimbo, by the way.
...can breathe. He said he stayed like that for hours until the authorities left. He claimed at the time he had no idea that Greg Fall was dead, and that he didn't know until he returned home and was told by his groundskeeper. McAfee claimed that his initial reaction was shock. He thought that the GSU must have been trying to kill him, but mistook Greg Fall for him instead. He also said that he thought the GSU poisoned his dogs in order to attempt to get him to leave the country. Marco Vidal of the GSU denied his claim. Quote, "This guy amazes me every day. We don't have anything personal against Mr. McAfee. There is no need for us to poison his dogs." When asked if he killed Greg Fall because of the poisoned dogs, McAfee responded with,
"The idea that my neighbors may have done it did in fact occur to me. One of them, and the first one was the doctor next door because he lives closest to me. Greg lives way down the beach, and I was even surprised he could even hear my dogs. But both Greg and the doctor have dogs, love dogs. A dog owner, a dog lover, is not going to poison anybody's dog under any circumstances. Now, maybe they'd poison me, but not my dogs."
Regardless of his proclaimed innocence, McAfee decided to go into hiding, even though he was only wanted for questioning, and there was no warrant for his arrest. In the documentary Gringo, the filmmakers suggested that Eddie Mac Ted McCoy killed Greg Fall on McAfee's behalf. After speaking to McAfee's former caretaker, Cashin Chavarera, they learned that McAfee had cashed and deposit $5,000 into Eddie Mac Ted McCoy's account on the morning after McAfee's dogs were poisoned. On the night of Greg Fall's murder, Cashin allegedly picked McCoy up near Fall's house and then drove him back to McAfee's place. Due to these circumstances, Cashin posited that McAfee had paid McCoy to kill Greg Fall. Then Nanette Bernstein, the documentary's director, questioned Mac 10, who denied everything, and said that he was at his sister's wedding that night. Nanette Bernstein said that although she wanted to check out his alibi, it felt way too dangerous. Later, Amy Emschwiller was detained in connection to the murder of Greg Fall and stated that one of McAfee's girlfriends lured Greg Fall into his house and did a striptease to distract him while Mac 10 approached from behind and shot him in the back of the head. In the documentary, they noted that police did not have DNA testing back in 2012, so although a fingernail was found in Greg Fall's scalp, they had no way to see if it matched Eddie McCoy's. However, Mac 10 told me that after the documentary aired, he was arrested.
I was arrested for the murder, but like I said, I got acquitted. None of the evidence didn't match.
How could the evidence match if there's no way to fucking process DNA, dude? That's crazy. Oh man, yeah, there was no evidence, dude.
Prosecution branch, they dropped it before it even got bigger, because they didn't have any evidence that's strong enough to go to court. So they dropped it right away. And found out it wasn't true, or it was a bunch of crap. So why would you go to court looking stupid with a bunch of crap, or take a bunch of crap to court? Or it's just because someone's saying it in a documentary, and when they looked up trying to get any evidence concerning it or from the documentary, nothing matched what the guy said wasn't true, right? Because first of all, if you wired $5,000 to someone's account, they should have record of that money. They went to check, there was no record. Then my alibi was at the wedding. There was several people that know me. Everyone there was little neighbors, friends, family, and everyone did came out and speak that I was there. So, that's a overwhelming amount of people talking on my behalf that I was at the wedding because it was my sister's. So why would they lie, right? And they did our investigation and found out that I wasn't there, so they couldn't go ahead and charge me and pin it on me. So they had to release me.
By then, it was a few years after their initial investigation, and the Belizean authorities now had a way to test his DNA. He told me that the results came back as negative, and also that his alibi checked out. Moreover, the $5,000 was never documented as being wired to his account. He said that he's currently involved in a civil suit against the documentary filmmakers. I emailed the Belizean Police Department to confirm Mac 10's statements, but I'm still waiting for their response. If they get back to me, I'll stick you an update in the comments below. Do you think that McAfee killed Greg Fall?
I'm not. McAfee is. I'm not sure. Me personally, I don't think he can kill anyone personally. He just carry guns, but I don't think he even know to use his. So I'm not sure about that.
Do you think he hired some people to beat and publicly execute David Middleton?
Well, that's the next thing. I heard about it, but it's hard to say. There was a lot of story about it, but no one knows the truth. But could be.
CBS 5 reporter Joe Vasquez in the newsroom with a strange tale of the software multimillionaire who may be in trouble with the law. Joe?
Yeah, Alan, this is such a bizarre situation. In fact, several reporters who've interviewed him in recent days describe him as erratic and eccentric, and he's recently been keeping company with gangsters. Now, John McAfee is on the run, refusing to talk to the police about the murder of his neighbor.
There are two versions of the story pertaining to McAfee's time on the run. One is the factual version of events, and the other is a highly exaggerated, fantastical bit of fiction written by McAfee himself. First, I'm going to share McAfee's because it is fucking hilarious. By disguising himself, he claimed that he was able to spy on police officers and reporters. He dyed his beard light gray, covered his skin with dark shoe polish, and stuffed his cheeks with bubblegum to fatten his face. He made his nose appear awkward and lopsided by shoving a shaved tampon into his right nostril.
Okay, dude, what the fuck? Oh, holy shit. That was...
He wore ragged clothes and draped a serape over his shoulders. He walked with a limp and hunched over to appear 6 inches shorter. Posing as a peddler of Guatemalan woven goods, he watched his home while pushing a fixed-gear bicycle up and down the beach. One day, he'd look like a tamale and burrito salesman.
Cancel the dead man? No, we're talking about the YouTuber using blackface. I think he's black, though. The YouTuber is.
The next day, he'd pretend to be a drunk German tourist with a partially bandaged face and an oversized Hawaiian shirt over Speedos. From the beach, he watched police raid his home several times. He watched them dig up his dead dogs and cut their heads off. Weirdly enough, that actually happened. The police were looking to see if the bullets he used to put down his dogs matched the one used to kill Greg Fall. After his reconnaissance from the beach, McAfee claimed that he spent weeks hiding out with Samantha in the jungle. He said that they moved every 4 hours to throw off their pursuers. He hid by laying on the floors of taxis and sleeping on mattresses infested with lice. McAfee wrote that he had been preparing for his escape since the GSU raided his compound in April of that year. He claimed that he began a 6-month surveillance operation with the help of a network of people who could not be followed. He said that he gained access to secret government information by donating 75 cheap laptops to government officials that were installed with keystroke logging software. He said that he hired the mistresses of government officials to bug their homes and offices. He also claimed that he had access to the donated laptop's webcams and microphones. By doing all of this, he claimed that he was able to stay one step ahead of his pursuers at all times. Additionally, he said that he uncovered a massive human trafficking conspiracy between the Belizean government, Hezbollah, and the Los Zeta cartel. Apparently, the Belizean...
Okay, so he was talking about the Belizean government. Okay, so here's the funny thing about this, okay? Why is it that it's always fucking libertarians who are like literally in the process of like sex trafficking minors, which is what he's doing very openly and very well in a very well documented capacity. Why is it always those people who are like, the government are doing sex trafficking? It's so strange, dude. Like, when he says he wants to kill the Sinaloa cartel, I feel as though that is coming from a place of jealousy. You know what I mean? Like, he's just jealous that, like, the Sinaloa cartel has been significantly more effective as, like, a business entity than he ever could have imagined. Whether it be making drugs or doing a bunch of crimes or even taking over an entire region and controlling it, like as a form of government. Like, he tried to do it in fucking Belize and failed, basically. So he was just like upset that's why when they asked him, hey, who would you kill if you had the opportunity? He's like, the Sinaloa cartel. It's because he was jealous.
The government was issuing passports to Hezbollah terrorists
Sinaloa,
in
sorry.
order to infiltrate the United States with individuals having links to terrorist organizations. While, quote, Hezbollah is using the Zeta drug transportation network to transport something similar in weight and size to the drugs that the Zetas know so well how to slip into the States. In return, Hezbollah is providing know-how to the Zetas in advanced weaponry. I'm not making any of this up. By late November of 2012, he was off to Guatemala with 2 Vice magazine journalists, Amy Emschwiller, Samantha, a guy named Keith, and his driver, Tom Mangard. McAfee wrote that he used subterfuge to thwart the Belizean government's effort to capture him. He said that he had advanced teams driving ahead of him and reporting activity at checkpoints. He claimed that one of the advanced team drivers was a man who legally changed his name to John McAfee 30 years prior and had been acting as his double ever since. His other plan to pass checkpoints involved the rain.
Brilliant.
McAfee had a hunch that the Belizean authorities never did anything whatsoever while it was raining. He wrote that because of the rain, they passed all checkpoints without being stopped. He also posted a photo of an officer leaning on the hood of a car with others huddled inside. I can't comment on the veracity of the Belizean authorities' supposed allergy to rain, but there is one thing that I can confirm that McAfee actually did do. While driving towards the southern border, he did trick the press into believing that he was arrested in Mexico, and there's footage of him doing this.
He was arrested with a fake ID, and so you cannot give them the name of that ID.
He got arrested with a fake ID, so they don't know that it's him that they have.
Okay, so that was something, right? Needless to say, it's mostly bullshit. So now it's time to go over the real story. After Greg Fall was found dead, McAfee did go into hiding, but definitely not in the dense jungles of Belize. Instead, he sat cozy in a motel for the next 3 weeks, rather than keeping a...
Damn, dude. Just absolute madness that he was able to evade the authorities by driving around and staying at a hotel. Remarkable, really.
Low profile, McAfee did everything in his power to acquire as much attention as possible.
And to see how McAfee, who is, well, listen, let's go back to 2012. He's a hardcore drug addict at this point. He's just effed up out of his mind. And he's on the run. He's like, holed up in some cheap motel on the outskirts of Belize City. And most people would be absolutely losing their marbles. And here's a guy who's like, okay, Tom, go get me a whole bunch of burner phones. I'm going to start calling international journalists and turning this into a sensation, which he did. Yeah, his escape, when he wasn't even, I mean, think about it. There wasn't even an arrest warrant out for him. And he's like, I'm on the lam, and he's spinning this whole narrative about this, which is ridiculous. But how many journalists have any knowledge of like how Belize, where even Belize is, let alone how the government works? And this idea that like Belize is like this super efficient police state with like SWAT teams poised on the top of every coconut tree. I mean, the whole thing was just so ludicrous, but it was such an education in how to hack the media.
He was on the phone non-stop with Joshua Davis, who live tweeted every development. Then he made a blog and a Twitter. On November 17th, he wrote a total of 5 essay-length entries onto his blog. The first one was an introduction, but instead of writing about his time on the run, he chose to accuse Jeff Wise of cheating on his wife with a young woman who was part of McAfee's inner circle back when Wise was covering McAfee's aerotrekking days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he might have done that more than once. He did that while he was on the run.
Yeah.
He did something like, oh, yeah, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know why. I I mean, I know why he attacked me in the first place. I mean, that was pretty, understandable. Why he retracted it, I don't know. I mean, he certainly isn't worried about liability or anything. I mean, I should say it's not true, but I don't know. That was a weird thing.
9 days later, McAfee posted a submission with a headline reading, "An apology to Jeff Wise," which was followed up by, "I have erroneously accused Jeff Wise of improper behavior on a reporting trip that he did to my flying ranch in New Mexico. His online presence confused those following."
Wait. I gotta read the rest of it. What is he saying?
Ranch in New Mexico.
Shit. I finally received the photos from that trip and I was going to publish them. And when I looked at them, to my horror, it was a different reporter, whose name I will obviously not release, from a different magazine on a different trip. I wish I could excuse myself due to the fact that I did dozens of interviews and appeared in dozens of magazines during my flying times in New Mexico, and could be expected to be confused, but that is no excuse. Jeff's trip did not even include a campfire session. I was wrong. I apologize. I know that does not help, but I am truly sorry. I find this so odd, dude. He's like, what an honorable person, dude.
Proper behavior on a reporting trip that he did to my flying ranch in New Mexico. His online presence confused those following the story, who wondered whether McAfee might unintentionally expose his location due to his overwhelming online presence. He responded with, "I founded one of the largest computer security firms in the world. Of course I won't let my IP address be known." After countless Twitter and blog posts, McAfee embarked on a press junket. He spoke to Alex Jones.
And he is on with us today. Sir, thank you for reaching out to us.
Joe Rogan.
Hello?
Hello?
Mr. McAfee.
Yes.
It's Joe Rogan. How are you, sir?
CNN.
Did you kill Greg Fall?
I barely knew the man, and why would I kill him? He was a neighbor that lived 200 yards down the beach.
Do you really believe that this is a vendetta by the government of Belize to take you down and kill you?
Absolutely, sir.
My man never says no, by the way. It's kind of funny.
He also appeared on NBC and offered a reward of $25,000 to whoever finds the killer of Greg Fall.
This morning, we told you how McAfee had announced a $25,000 Belizean reward for the arrest of the real killer. That's about $12,500 US.
By November 31st, he hooked up with a Vice journalist and videographer who covered his journey into Guatemala. Once in Punta Gorda, they arranged for a boat to take them into Livingston. Looks like a good time. Ooh, dolphins. Then they traveled into Fronteras, and finally into Guatemala City. Once in Guatemala City, the guys from Vice, editor-in-chief Rocco Castoro, and videographer Robert King put together an article with a headline that read, "We are with John McAfee right now, suckers." They also posed for a picture together, which turned out to be a huge mistake. Someone noticed that the photograph still contained GPS location data embedded by the phone that took it. That person then tweeted, "Check the metadata in the photo." Oops. Soon the world knew.
Dude, that's so funny, dude. Hey, you want to know the inherent irony? The weakest point of any fucking cybersecurity system is humans. That is the most exploitable point. And there you go. John McAfee should have fucking known that inviting other humans into your fucking house and like running from the goddamn law while doing that was a mistake. Especially if you're going to post photos from that experience without deleting the fucking exfil or whatever the fuck it's called, the metadata. Exfil, whatever, the metadata. Even I know that, and I don't even know what it's fucking called.
John McAfee's exact location, which was poolside at the hotel in Marina, Nanawana, in Izabal, Guatemala. In response, McAfee tried to bluff his way out of it. He claimed that he knowingly disclosed his location in order to throw his pursuers off of his tail. After Robert King from Vice went online to echo his assertion, Matt Honan of Wired.com wrote that he followed an egregiously stupid action with a far worse one. By lying for John McAfee, King, a photojournalist, was intentionally aiding and abetting a fugitive. Vice later put out a statement saying that it wouldn't comment about its reporting in the McAfee case.
By the way, this is such fucking 2012 Vice, dude. They used to do shit like this all the fucking time, dude. Great. Back when Vice was kind of cool, even though they were like, then they got acquired by Murdoch, or Murdoch bought a piece of them, and then all hell broke loose since then. They've just been dog shit.
After having
Even back then, they were annoying.
his location exposed, McAfee relocated to another hotel. There he met with Samantha's uncle, a lawyer.
How else would I have learned about Crocodile and so many other things if... I mean, they still make, like, good content. Don't get me wrong. From time to time, which we watch all the time. But, like... How else? How else would I have known about Crocodile as a child? Okay? Not as a child, but, like, as a young adult, I guess. Yeah, don't they do content on dumb Twitch streamers? Yeah, exactly. North Korea. They did so many cool videos. They were terrible.
Lawyer and the former Attorney General of Guatemala, Telesforo Guerrera, who he hired.
The cannibal warlords in Liberia.
While enjoying a delicious-looking breakfast, McAfee had some kind words to say about Samantha.
She is a remarkable young woman.
Or not
I
the
love her
cannibal
very much.
warlords in Liberia. Where were the cannibal warlords in? Were they in Liberia? Oh, it was. Okay, good. Yeah, General Butt Naked.
And we are getting married. So,
Good one on Colombia drug. Yeah, I remember that one too. The Colombian drug that makes people act normal but then forget everything that happened the next day. Dude.
Fortunately, you will have a potential criminal in the family now.
Then he went for a haircut and had his gray roots touched up. After all, he had a press meeting to attend, so he had to look presentable. He told press that he planned to seek asylum in Guatemala and to share documentation proving the intense corruption at all levels of the Belizean government. On December 6th of 2012, McAfee was arrested outside of his hotel by Interpol for entering the country illegally. He was then taken to a detention center. Although he had been arrested, he seemed upbeat, writing on his blog, quote, "I'm in jail in Guatemala, vastly superior to Belize jails. I asked for a computer, and one magically appeared. The coffee is also excellent." Guatemalan authorities kept him there while they waited for the foreign ministry to give word of what to do with him. Both the Guatemalan and Belizean authorities were left scratching their heads. The Belizean police put out a statement saying that there was no warrant for McAfee's arrest, and Guatemala's foreign minister said that although his government was unaware of any arrest warrant, he would study McAfee's asylum request once presented. According to an unnamed source in the Guatemalan government, there was no reason to detain Mr. McAfee because there was no legal case against him pending in the country. It was unclear why McAfee even sought asylum in Guatemala, since there were no restrictions on his travels, so he didn't even need special status to stay in the country. The Prime Minister of Belize, Dean Barrows, summed it up succinctly.
I don't want to be unkind, but it strikes me that he's extremely paranoid. In fact, I would go so far as to say bonkers.
Still, McAfee did enter Guatemala illegally, and even though there was no extradition treaties between the countries, Guatemala intended to honor Belize's request to send him back. In response, McAfee took to his blog with a plea. Please email the president of Guatemala and beg him to allow the court system to proceed to determine my status in Guatemala. Later that day, McAfee suddenly collapsed in the detention center and was rushed to hospital. Then he was carried out of the detention center on a stretcher and taken to the hospital with a gaggle of press in tow. Watching the footage, it's immediately obvious that he didn't have a heart attack at all. Regardless, it was reported that his lawyer said he suffered from 2 mild heart attacks. His hospital stay was brief. The doctor who examined him said he was fine. His heart rhythm and blood pressure were normal, and he appeared to only be suffering from high stress. A few hours later, he was taken back to the detention center. McAfee later clarified the situation. stating that it was all a ruse in order to take advantage of a window of time which would allow an appeal to go through before he was deported back to Belize. Within a few days, it was announced that he would be placed on board an American Airlines flight to Miami. After being escorted to the airport by Guatemalan officials, McAfee told the press this.
I've been running through jungles and rivers and oceans, and I think I need to rest for a while.